Welcome everyone to What the Force, and we are doing our live stream of the Rise of Skywalker novelization deep dive. I'm Marie Claire Gould, and with me is...
Hi, I'm Ty Black or Wit and Folly or at Black_TYM on Twitter.
And we have furiously attempted to read the Rise of Skywalker novelization in an effort to give you a deep dive as promised. And we are ready to talk all about it. I see some people joining in the chat, so we wanted to do a little bit of an intro to what we wanted to talk about and then get into the novelization. So just to let you know, if you're listening to this on the regular podcast, this was originally recorded via live stream on YouTube. So it will definitely be a little bit of an interactive experience with our people who are in the chat. So we might be answering some questions. I see tons of our friends all joining, which is really, really great. So hi, everybody. And just a little bit of a warning up front. This will be a full spoiler deep dive. So we're going to be talking about a lot of the scenes that were not included in the movie, and we'll be talking about kind of all of the different aspects of especially the thematic elements of the book. And in that this is a live stream, normally when Ty and I record, she goes to the bathroom like 3 times when we record. So she's going to have a break whenever she needs, because she has the bladder the size of a walnut. And then I will
pretty much
talk with the chats.
Yeah. Because you'll have to.
Because I'm going to have to. No, because I want to, but yes.
Yeah.
Most definitely. So as we get started, we're going to talk about our general thoughts and feelings. We're going to go over some of the similarities and differences and how we felt about those things and deep dive into the important thematic elements that we see. And with that, let's talk about our general thoughts. Ty?
Yeah, general thoughts and feelings are still very empty. The book is... There it is. It's actually pretty as a physical copy. I don't have the physical copy, but I have the Kindle edition.
My notes. I ran out of Post-it notes at one point.
Yeah, I highlighted like so much of it in the Kindle version. It's really weird because it feels very... I don't know, it sometimes feels disjointed from the film itself, and then sometimes it feels like it's correcting the film, and then sometimes it feels it's going right along with exactly what they wanted, with what Terrio and JJ envisioned. So it's just very odd, and it didn't really... It gave me peace about some things, and then it made me even angrier about other things. So, which I kind of expected it to do. So, you know, not much of a surprise, I guess.
Okay. So if you look at the 3 novelizations for the sequel trilogy, it is the shortest. It is shorter by almost 40 pages from TFA. And actually, when you hold them like back to back together, the Last Jedi is by far the longest of them. It has the most extra scenes. It has the most extra elements. It really deep dives using a lot of prose. And I just don't know that the original text, being the movie, gave us enough to work on from a, we can build flowery prose off of this scene.
Yeah.
Because there is not enough to give. And we're going to get into that as far as what we feel from the characters and how Ray Carson treated them. In general, Ray Carson is a beautiful writer. I very much enjoyed Most Wanted, and this book is very well written, but there are like things that you cannot fix because of the plot elements and some of the dialogue.
Yeah.
I struggle with the fact that for me personally, and many of you who listen to the podcast hear me talk about how The Rise of Skywalker is a teddy bear made out of knives. And it's it's like the knives were like sheathed, you know,
Yeah.
like they still poke you a little bit, but it's not like it stabs you, because she smooths over so many of the rough edges of some of the elements, and we get a ton of just amazing material to do with Leia, Rey, and Kylo. And in that, if you kind of want to read it and you want to kind of speed through the things that you don't enjoy, it will be worthwhile for you, I think. On a negative perspective, because of the something about the movie, which I've said before, because of the quick editing, it allows you to glaze over the things that you don't like. The book itself doesn't have that ability, because you can focus on the things that you like, and yeah, you can read past the things that you don't like and like skip ahead, but they're still all there. You know, like if you're reading the book and you're being faithful to reading the book, like it just, like some of it just doesn't work. I just don't know that they did enough in the movie to give Rey enough to develop, because she was, you know, kind of stuck with what she had. So, for example, the trio is terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
for sure.
They don't feel like found family at all. As much as she says, oh, my family or your family, Palpatine says, like, look at your family up there as they're being destroyed. And she's like, where? It feels like they hate each other, like, because those are the things that are pointed out, like how much they don't get along, and it's not even enjoyable. I tweeted about this, that found family is people that you treat better than your real family, like, and you don't get that impression with the book. And then the nostalgia is even more apparent. I didn't think that would be possible, but like I didn't realize that the blockade runner was actually the Tantive 4, which seems just like having Tatooine in the movie for no reason. It just feels
even more
like there's just things I know Ray Carson couldn't fix, but because of the format of the medium, it like highlighted those things even more. So that's a little hard. In general, though, miracles were done with this book. If I decide to watch the saga, I won't watch the movie. I'll just read this book.
Yeah.
And I think it was Michelle, my good friend, who said, this is now my episode 9. Because it's easier to consume. You get more good elements out of it. Yeah.
It's more things kind of make sense and fit together a little bit better. But
somebody in the chat just said, Dominic just said, wasn't the Tantive 4 destroyed? Well, wasn't Palpatine destroyed? What matters anymore? Hi, Dominic.
Hi, Dominic. Stop speaking wisdom here.
Stop speaking. Stop with your logic.
Psh, we don't do that. This is Star Wars. We should say what we're drinking.
Oh yeah, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking a perpetual IPA from Trogs Independent Brewing, which is like one of my favorite like brewers right now, because they have like everything they make is like delicious.
I am drinking Alexander Keith's Red Amber Ale. It's a Canadian brewery.
You're so Canadian.
Nova Scotia. It's got a stag on the label.
Canadian.
Those watching B-Stars. And then I also have for later, also with a lion, a Guinness for when I finish my Alexander Keith's.
Which I can promise you has fewer calories than the one that you're drinking now.
I trust you.
Just saying. Yeah. Guinness has its low calorie low calorie beer. People don't know this. Anyways.
It's it's the bad is drinking a 2% milk. I mean, Guinness is the beer that drinks like a meal. So
it tastes like it, but it doesn't actually fill you up. So
yeah. So let's dig in. Where do you want to start?
Oh boy. Okay, so when we started, we were taking notes for this, like kind of needed to organize it. So our kind of last minute way of organizing all of this, as opposed to going through this like scene by scene, and because a lot of things in this book are really mixed up. There's a lot of scenes that overlap each other from the films, and they overlap each other in the book too. A lot of the action is overlapped with things.
Yeah.
Which is odd, and it's too much. So, yeah. So we can start. I'd like to start
well,
in like
there is a difference because of how. So it doesn't start kind of with Kylo.
No, it doesn't start the same as the film. It does start with. It opens with Leia. I think this was a really not. It doesn't open with Leia, but it opens. Doesn't it open with
Rey training?
Rey training. Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, wait a minute. But yeah, it's a much better way, I think, to open this film, or open the story at least.
Yeah.
And just right off the bat, just started making me feel a lot better about some of the things that happened, some of the things I knew were going to happen in the story again.
Yep.
And I hadn't watched the film again since I saw it the first time when going in to read the book. So it did feel kind of like right off the bat, like with Leia's memories and Leia's perspective, and just giving her this voice that wasn't in the film because we didn't have Carrie Fisher. It felt like exactly what should have happened in the book.
Yeah.
But like, of course, that's what they're gonna do, and watch that sort of thing. Again, since I saw it the first time, it was expected, I guess. To read the book, so it did feel kind of like.
Whoa.
Something happened?
Yeah. Sorry, there was a little bit of a thing that happened. Sorry. Go ahead. me messing with stuff behind the scenes.
Don't mess with stuff.
Sorry.
But yeah. Anyways,
we're live.
Yes, we are live. You can't edit this out. But yeah, it definitely was expected, and like the way that Carson wrote Rey, or wrote the whole like training scene with like how Leia speaks to Rey.
Yeah.
And how she like, and how Rey is kind of feeling Leia, and how she sees her as it's like a Jedi Master relationship kind of thing, but it's also, it's a little more than that. It's more than what it obviously could have been presented in the film, which again, expected. Of course, that's what they're going to do with it. But Carson does write it beautifully.
Yeah. And we find out a little bit like that Luke has been talking to Leia kind of all throughout the book. We see that, right? I really enjoyed the first, I feel like it was 70 pages of the book. So how do I know that? Is because I read it pretty quickly and then I stopped reading it. And it took me a long time. Like, I received an early copy of the book, and I'm very thankful for that. But I still I struggled reading the book for parts of it. But the Leia stuff especially was really great, except for the fact that, and this is some of that weird nostalgia stuff that I don't know how to call it out other than like kind of, it just sits weird. So like from Leia's perspective, she thinks about how Luke would say that Ajin Kloss, the planet, the jungle planet, because I didn't even remember what the planet's name was, Ajin Kloss, that planet was nice Dagobah.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's things like that throughout the book where Leia doesn't have her own point of view for interpreting things. It's almost like Leia is interpreting things through a lens of what Luke would say.
Yeah, because Leia never wanted to be a Jedi, so the only way to give her any kind of memory of wanting to become a Jedi was to give her like Luke's
Journey.
everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
his
So
journey.
Leia doesn't have the things that we would in current canon associate with her from a character perspective. So her being a diplomat, her being a general,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. She has a bunch of quotes that her brother gave her. And it's even down to like uh something that Yoda says to Luke. And it's
Yeah.
like it just feels odd. It's written like really, really well, but like it's not even her. It's like
No.
her through a Luke lens. And there are memories of her like fighting with Luke, which I appreciate because it makes them feel more like siblings and not like this weird married couple by the end. I think that they were trying to fix that general impression people got out of the theater. Like they
Yeah.
saw that and they were like, maybe. But like to me, that was a very odd choice. And like she says a lot of stuff in her POV like she would never leave Rey, and it just it enhances the abandonment even though she makes up for it later on. It's
Mm.
odd.
Yeah, so there's some things I really liked all the Leia stuff, like I said, until we start getting into where Luke starts talking to her.
Mhm.
And like you're saying, it was like as if Leia wasn't making decisions on her own anymore. Luke was telling her to do things because there was that moment where she feels like she's dying, basically,
Mhm.
and she doesn't accept it yet. Like she's not there yet in her head. But Luke comes around and is like, it's time.
Yeah, like yeah.
And then he says, and then she says, I can't. She told him, there's too much to do. She felt his understanding, his love, maybe even a touch of amusement. And then he says, there's only one thing left, and then you can rest. I was just like,
Go and make sure your
no.
son is stabbed.
Yeah,
This is like
there's so much here that's odd. Like she doesn't make that decision herself. She's or I mean, I know that's kind of what they want us to get at, but like why does Luke have to tell her? Why does Luke have to reach out to her that way? And
it's
it was
not
just
her own agency and her own choice in any of this. She's just fulfilling the things that Luke couldn't.
yeah,
And thus, when Rey is fulfilling the things that Leia couldn't, she is fulfilling the things that Luke
that Luke
couldn't.
couldn't.
It's
Yeah.
just literally like to what you called her at the end of like when you got out of the movie. You're like, oh, she's Rey Skywalker saga. Yeah, she is, because
Yeah.
literally she's not her own self. And it's repetitive throughout the book to remind us that she is not Rey. She is all of the Jedi. She is all of these stories. She is
Yeah.
everything, which is unfair.
Yeah, very, very. And yeah, that was the kind of like surprising thing I didn't expect to see, I guess, is because, in the beginning of the book, Leia was written as Leia. Like it was just her, it was her decisions, it was her as like the general and like, oh, she trained with Luke, but now she is like, she's giving Rey her wisdom. And then in the middle of it, it was like,
No, it's Luke's wisdom all along.
yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
that struck me as very odd. I don't it was well written, and it felt like it should be coming from her, and I think that it was in so many ways, and Rey certainly feels like it's coming from Leia as her master, which I like.
mm-hmm.
And like having that um
But everything falls flat somewhere.
yeah.
Everything does.
Oh,
Um,
Black Eyed Lily just said, hi, Black Eyed Lily. The audiobook was really tough to listen to. The intonation of Ray's inner voice made it sound far too goody goody. It was cringy to listen to. And that's Mark Thompson that did the audiobook. I didn't listen to it. I read the book because I needed to read through it fast. And even then it still took me forever. But
I'm
Yeah,
not
I
surprised
heard
by
his
that.
Kylo was good, but not his Rey. And his Rey has never been good. His Rey was bad in TFA times, like him doing like this weird feminine British accent. I wish they had gotten a female um audiobook performer.
Yeah. Who was the person who did it for TLJ? Was that somebody different?
It was.
Okay, because I really liked that. I have not listened, did not listen to TFA one. I have not listened to this one, but the TLJ one was really good for
Yeah.
Ray at least. And yeah, so interesting. I'm not surprised by that. Why? Because of course, reading Ray in this one, you would want to make her sound goody goody because all these terrible things are happening to her, and yet she's just trying to make the right decision.
Well,
But
we don't. Yes, yes. And because it's a book, we don't have to look at her in white the whole thing, because unless you really picture her in white. Yeah, I don't know.
so training, so the next kind of theme here that I wanted to go into
Chunk,
is
yeah.
yeah, like training and trials and how this happens in the book. It's
Oh,
very
can we say how many times training is mentioned?
Oh,
It's
yeah,
at the bottom. I asked you to pull all these things, and you pulled some of them on your own.
Oh, yeah. So training occurs, the word train or training occurs 49 times in the book. And this is really interesting. The word trial occurs one time in reference to Ben becoming the leader of the Knights of Ren.
Huh.
He overcoming his trial. So this got me thinking, and a bunch of people probably saw my Twitter post before this, if Ray Carson actually sat down and talked to Chris Terrio at all, because Chris Terrio made this really big deal in the legacy of the Skywalker documentary, or the Skywalker legacy documentary, that, you know, Leia had to complete her Jedi trial in the film, which they make it look like it's her dying,
yeah,
and giving up the legacy. But yeah, I thought that was very odd.
It doesn't seem to align with how Chris Terrio viewed the movie and how it was written as a book.
Yeah, that was very odd to me, because it was obviously very important to him, and all of the training to me was tied to preparing Rey for her Jedi trial. Like, that's to me like what Chris Terrio was thinking, and yet it's not in the book at all. Like,
yeah, like that focus and that intention behind the movie, because we know because of the documentary, that was what Chris was thinking. He was thinking of the old school legends. Oh, you must go through your trials, all 5 of them.
Yeah.
And you must become a Jedi because everybody wants to be a sexless Jedi.
Yes.
I have questions.
Yeah, exactly. It's very, very confusing. So I was shocked to see that. And again, I think like it's like Ray Carson was like getting this idea, but like wasn't using the same words. And so I thought that was really strange. But anyways.
Yeah, Jesse in the chat just said we can tell the story group had a hand in the book compared to the movie. And you can, because of and there's actually going to be an example that I have upcoming with Dark Ray, and you can tell that they tried, all as a team, tried to smooth all the edges, but there is only so much things that miracles can do.
Yeah, definitely. And I wanted to mention that the whole training montage thing as well, which is obviously didn't feel good in the movie.
Yeah, it felt better.
But what's interesting is like, right, like, so the pros that, you know, Ray Carson gives this is that Ray is just filled with rage.
Yeah, she's so
like,
mad.
She's just mad. Yeah. And it's very odd because like none of the objects, like the red ribbon, she calls it a flag. Like, she got it's like capture the flag from the droids kind of game. And she does all that. So none of these objects, like the stick that she picks up, like none of the objects have any kind of meaning to Rey. There's no like symbolic connection to any of this. until the force connection kicks, or that the force vision, sorry, kicks
Yeah.
in. Nothing has any meaning, and it really just like again confirmed to me that the training montage as it was written in the script was not for Rey.
No.
It was for the audience.
Yep. Because if you write something with like meaning for the character, you will be able to pull out, you know, the thematic and symbolic reasons behind it. You'll be able to make it that much better.
Like, what does she feel when these droid hits her? What does it remind her of? Like, what is the, like, there's nothing there. There's nothing like that. It's just like, ouch, and I'm mad. Why are you mad? Ugh.
Yeah.
Anyways, I just thought that was interesting.
Somebody said to me that it felt like reading a really out of character fan fiction.
Yeah, that's what it feels like for sure.
And I think that that's unfortunate because it's well written. Yeah. It just doesn't give you a lot of meat, much like the movie.
It's like somebody trying to write an action sequence for the first time and is like a good writer and they're doing it well, but they kind of forgot to give meaning to it because there was no meaning there in the first place and she couldn't really grab anything.
Yeah. Yeah. No meat, no bones.
Yeah.
Just sinew.
Yeah, just sinew, exactly.
Just the strings that pulled things together. Yeah, it's so interesting how many times training is mentioned. And it's just odd. Under training, because it ends up being a trial for Rey, is the meeting with Dark Rey, and Rey is shooketh by the fact that Dark Rey is like, don't be afraid of who you are, when, you know, Rey had literally heard those words from Leia.
So that was odd. Yeah. Ray Claire pointed this out to me earlier and I was like, wait, what?
Well, and Rey thinks about it. She's like, it's odd to hear these words coming from the dark version of myself when I just heard these from my master Leia. It's like, okay.
I totally skipped that, yeah.
Like, you can't just have the dark version and your like guiding light in the Force, your master, say the same thing.
Who could never, and Leia was somebody, according to Rey, who probably was not turnable. Like, she could never be turned by the dark side. So, like, what is? Yeah, that's very.
You can't
very
just like
strange.
have that conversation in your head, Rey. Rey of Jakku, Skywalker, probably Solo because you're a dyad married Palpatine. I don't care which way you put those names, but much like Leia later on in the book, where you have all of the legacy listed out.
Yes.
You can't like have those conversations and then never deal with those emotions.
Yes. There was actually a few things I'm trying to find one of the ones I thought about in my highlights, but there was a really interesting way that like Ray Carson sometimes would use like the prose, like she would use like the way the characters were thinking about things, and it would kind of highlight the issue with the story.
Yeah.
And it was like almost questioning what was happening, but not being able to make any sense of it.
Like, is this all a dream?
Yeah. Yeah.
An example we have of kind of story group touching things is in TLJ. The dark side of the Force and dark Force users are described as hungry. It's something that we pulled out in our Last Jedi novelization deep dive.
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah. Totally.
Of being on What the Force. But there's an actual line where, you know, Dark Rey appears before her. The figure radiated power and something else, a cold, ravenous hunger. And that is very indicative of the story group Fingerprints, because that is how the dark side is. It's ever hungry, unable to be satisfied. It's ever lonesome, unable to be comforted. It is, you are stuck in your own maze of pain. And it's really interesting to see that happen, like with her version of Luke's Dagobah scene, which is literally like what they were trying to reproduce. But because of the fact that Dark Rey says the truth about Rey to her rather than something else, it falls flat. And it fell flat in the movie too, because it was too rushed. We didn't get any moments to feel the horror, to feel temptation, to feel anything.
There was like a part actually where Ray Carson wrote right before it's kind of like right before she meets with Dark Rey.
Right.
And she says, like Ray sees her reflections in like I guess it's like the ruins. I couldn't figure out exactly how she saw a reflection in metal that was that old, but she said that she saw her reflection repeated in the walls, and she was like, no, she would not allow herself to go through this again. The tease, the promise of knowledge and insight, only to come up with nothing, which is obviously in reference to the Last Jedi scene where she was told, or when she was not shown anything through the reflection, she just saw herself.
Right.
Which we thought.
Well, no, it's like a combination, because the mirrors were supposed to be like but the problem.
Oh yeah, I guess there were mirrors.
There were mirrors, and she calls that out. So it was like that mirror cave was like just repetitive, and there's scenes in this, and again, there's nothing that Ray Carson could do about this, is that there's just scenes that are repeated because Chris and JJ wanted to repeat them.
Yeah, with no meaning behind it, and she couldn't find meaning behind it. That means
it didn't exist. There was no meaning. So
yeah,
anytime that Ray enhances the experience, and there's going to be some very specific characters that revolve around the enhancement of that experience. Anytime that Ray is able to enhance the experience, it's because there was actually deep meaning underneath the story.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it falls flat some moments. It falls flat for me personally anytime the trio is involved.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Okay. So the next, I'm just checking the comments. Yeah. So somebody said that Carly says she learned nothing from the training scene or the visit scene, like they were just boxes to be checked off on a list. I said this about a lot of plot points, like for a lot of the writing of the script and the writing of the book. I think it was a lot of it was like check boxes. So yeah.
And because it isn't quick edited like action cuts and back and forth and things like that, the novel accentuates the fact that it's like, why are we here? Oh, yeah, we're here because of X. Okay, so maybe
like actually the character's saying like, why are we here?
Yeah, like they say here? Like, why are we here again? Because like it's hard to remember like why are they there? Yeah. And that's hard. Like I literally don't blame Ray for anything.
Yeah.
She gets a free pass. I will read all of her other books.
Yeah. All right. So Mustafar,
but I did want to say one last thing, which is that
okay.
The problem is that it does accentuate kind of all of these troubles with the plot and with the characters. And yeah, I just said that, but like it's so bad. Like
It
It
is
just
so
needs
bad.
like hand gestures to be like, ah, there you go.
I agree. Yeah, so I know you put something in here about the Oracle. One of the things that I wanted to point out about like kind of Mustafar, which I was expecting there to be some mention of like the planet was coming to life again, and there was, and I was not disappointed by that. There was
Hello,
a lot.
thank you, story group.
Yes, there was a lot there with story group saying, hey, like Kylo can feel all of this. It looks like decay, but decay brings new life. And like there's these themes that we've seen repeated in canon stories for a while now, and Kylo is feeling it all. And then he says, this is a beautiful thing to me, it was no wonder his grandfather chose this place. And I was like, boy, my boy Ben, calling back to something that was like awesome about Anakin and about Vader, which was that even when Vader was at his darkest, he had an immense appreciation for the cycle of things.
Mm-hmm.
Just like his...
He understood death and life and all of those things almost innately. Yeah.
And it was sad at the same time because this idea that like Ray Carson kind of like illuminated upon, because the story group, gave her this plot element to kind of focus on, she was able to put that in there, but like there's nowhere in the story for the rest of Ben's story for that sort of idea to come up again.
I don't know where else to say this, but Rey knows Anakin's life story. There's a throwaway, there's a throwaway paragraph where Leia has explained the life of the Skywalker lightsaber and R2-D2 and it just, I was like, Rey knows everything?
Yeah, I think Anakin's name was mentioned maybe 3 or 4 times.
Well, Anakin Skywalker made C-3PO, and that's why like she understood that the droid was important, and I was like, this is cool, and then it's never mentioned again.
Yeah, and there's like a mention at the very, very end when she buries the sabers that she could feel another presence. She was like, oh, Anakin was there too. There were 2 generations of Skywalkers that lived in this place.
Anakin was there for like a hot weekend. Like,
I know. That was really strange.
Yeah,
and he did some
and
terrible
he
things
murdered a
too.
bunch of Tusken Raiders, like sand people, like, or
it was pulling out meaning where like there wasn't really much.
I mean, like if she had mentioned Shmi Skywalker and it would have been like she's that sensitive now, I may have forgiven her, but
like, Shmi lost opportunity too.
Yeah, like to mention Shmi, like, whoa.
Yeah, Shmi, and it could have been interesting if she would have mentioned Anakin and Padme's love.
Yeah,
Padme wasn't mentioned at all. But yeah, it was very strange. It was like, we're gonna mention Anakin, but we're gonna forget the fact that Anakin's fall was because of his love, and then and then Rey's, I don't know, like that something,
that thematic stuff that is like the whole point of the Skywalker saga, to show, hey, love can save you where hate doesn't save you, and your selflessness to your child Luke is the reason why Luke now lives to torture us for eternity in our minds, telling us to die already. Sorry. That was some salt.
There's a lot
of
salt in there. I just like, yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, somebody said in the in the chat, video essays was like, I hate sand. Yeah, like that presence she felt was Anakin being like, don't bury my heart in the middle of Tatooine. I hate this place.
Yeah. Yep, pretty much.
Oh God. I did want to talk a little bit about the Oracle, in that the Oracle basically just confirms the thematic prophecy that Palpatine, Leia, and Hux all say, which is, Kylo gonna die. Ben, you gonna die. Everybody says he's gonna die. and they're
And he
all
doesn't,
right.
yeah, and what's really weird is he doesn't contemplate that or think about it for one
No.
second.
He doesn't even, he's not even scared, whereas like normally dark side people, when they get a prophecy, they're like, oh, let's try to avoid that. He's like, actually, I'm going to run full bore into my destiny like an idiot.
Or he doesn't really even contemplate it like that though. Like he
No.
doesn't even contemplate it being his destiny. He doesn't say, "Oh, like they all said I would die, but I'm going to do it anyway."
It's
No,
just,
he doesn't even think about it.
it's weird. Like,
It's very weird.
it's weird in that like all people are right. Like normally when you have kind of one of these things where it's like, oh, Sleeping Beauty is going to prick her finger on a spinning wheel and fall into a deep sleep, never to awaken. The point of the fairy tale is that they break the fate.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
No,
yeah.
no. Like,
Yeah.
genuine. This is for Terrio, because this stuff was already in the script. Like these feeling, like the Jedi training stuff was it's in the movie. Like, oh, her son's death is at the end of her Jedi training. So why complete it?
Yeah. There's a lot of that.
It's just no, like when in fairy tale, when you are given a fate like that, there's always a way to overcome it through love, and that is just like no. Yeah. It, the Oracle just says a bunch of garbage.
Yeah.
It's not even like, oh, you have feelings for Rey.
No.
Although they do have a good moment because she's having a Force vision and he senses her there and he's like, oh, she's here, which is kind of cool.
I still don't think that's Rey. I don't think it's referring to Rey.
It's her. And she has a dream of him fighting in the woods. She has that vision of him fighting in the woods. That's what it is. It's literally back to back. It is what it is. It's them.
It's not clear enough to me.
Well, it's not.
Because also Rey says they had their first Force connection for the first time since Crate, and it's like all the way in like when they actually have a Force connection.
Black Eyed Lily again did a super chat. Thanks, Lily. Black Eyed Lily. There was a comment by Leia of Ben's betrayal of Luke, and it made me think that Leia never learned what actually happened between Luke and Ben. We don't know. Yeah, it's entirely.
Yeah, I actually did catch that. She said, betrayal
of Luke, but like.
Yeah. No, and that's actually another reason why I asked, because like none of the stuff that happened in the rise of Kylo Ren lines up with this. And also
you asked on Twitter that. Yeah,
all the stuff with the knights, like all the stuff with the knights doesn't line up. There's a part, I'll go ahead and mention this because it's kind of a short note. There's a quote at the end when like Ben's fixing to fight them, and he says, "For the briefest moment, Ben actually thought they'd come to help, but hate rolled off them in waves like fetid air." I don't know how to say that word. The Knights of Ren had never been his. They had belonged to the Emperor all along. A final betrayal. So I was like, wait a second. Ray Carson didn't know who the Knights of Ren were.
Do we even know who the Knights of Ren are? It's not even clear.
It's clear enough if you want to piece together all the stuff from the comic. They were Force users, who existed between the Jedi and the Sith. They did not claim to be Sith. This is the weird part. They did not claim to be Sith. They wanted to use the dark side for their own purposes, and they worshipped the Ren, and the Ren was the red bleeding lightsaber. That's what they believed the Ren was.
Was that clear in the comic? Did I read it wrong?
It's more so in the beginning when it's like it's in there. It's like in there. It's in the Wikipedia.
Was this from an interview after the fact?
No. Here, I'll look it up. You can move on to the next.
Okay.
I'll see. Wikipedia cites things. Hold on. Delay's gonna catch up. And Dominic said, "Do the Knights of Ren know who they are?" I mean, probably not. Like, probably not. They think they're a boy band. I don't know.
I prefer them as a boy band, maybe.
Oh yeah. According to the ways of the Ren.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, here it's all
Yeah.
in the comic.
I didn't read that, but maybe I'm.
I read it a little
I
bit.
read all the comics, but
I glazed over a lot of those, like, this is who we are, because you don't take that seriously. This guy is, bragging about like who they are and what they do, and you're just like, yeah, whatever.
I just hope that they were cursed armor.
I know. Well, I liked your theory better, but Jesse, of course, Jesse's.
It's an opening monologue. Well, maybe I
skipped the opening monologue. That's what it was. That's why we didn't read it.
Read the footnotes, Ty.
See, this is why I read the wiki on it, because I was like, God knows I miss things. But anyways,
3 points to Jedi Geek Girl, who noticed the Fantasy Flight games, RIP Fantasy Flight games, RPG books in the background. Which
that's cool.
Kyle, my husband, who's been doing the Clone Wars special report podcast with me, put in the background for me. I like my Ahsoka, though. My Ahsoka. And my daughter. No, it's the Morai.
I can't see it. Okay.
So it's C-3PO, Boba Fett. I don't know why I have a Boba Fett. I think he came in a smuggler's box. We have the Morai, which is a force owl. We have Ahsoka, and then we have a Wampa on top of my Harry Potter broom.
As they should be. Yeah, totally.
Katana on this side. Yeah, I'm a nerd. Leave me alone. I'm
surrounded by doors. I have no.
Yeah, you have nothing but doors. You're basically in a closet.
I have Star Wars like art over here. You just can't see it. I'm not lying. It's actually there. Anyway. I'll take a picture of it later and share it on Twitter to prove my geekdom.
I believe you.
Anyways.
Oh yeah, so let's move on to Snoke and Palpatine's contingency plan.
Yeah.
Or if we could actually say Snalps.
Yes, Snalps contingency plan. Totally. Okay, so yeah, so this is weird because like in the TLJ novel, it says, and this is the quote from the TLJ novel, Snoke knew he himself was an unlikely fulcrum, just about the furthest thing from what the tattered remnants of Palpatine's empire had imagined as a leader. Grasping in the dark among strange stars, they had come perilously close to destruction, and it had not been military might that saved them. It had been knowledge, Snoke's knowledge, which ironically led back to Palpatine and his secrets. So this is kind of like weirdly, like we all knew Palpatine was going to come back into this because all of the canon material was saying he was still important.
Mm-hmm.
We just didn't know how. So oddly, this choice breaks the canon the most.
Yeah.
Than, like pretty much any of the other choices. So that's very odd. But to me, I'm like, it doesn't like make any sense here if Snoke's knowledge is what saved the First Order, and like Snoke's over here saying not the like he's not a Sith and like you need to use both sides of like the dark side and the light side. It's basically saying like Snoke knew more than Palpatine.
Yes.
And
that's why he was able to survive as long as, and he was supposed to have been older than Palpatine and like around like a really long time. And yeah, it just kind of makes Snoke feel laughable now.
Yeah, more than laughable, which is odd again, because like JJ created him and you wouldn't think that he would allow that to happen. But Knights of Ren, same thing. But anyways, so Also, a note here is that Kylo notes that Palp's body couldn't last much longer. He notices that the body is like deteriorating.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't understand this for so many reasons, and if somebody could please explain this to me, that would be great. Let's not use pretzel logic though. Let's use kid logic. There's two solutions for Palpatine. You can have Rey kill him so he could live on in her, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or he can suck the power out of the dyad to live. Like, those literally are his only two options. Why does he ask Ben to kill her?
I don't know.
Nobody
No,
knows.
seriously, I don't. I other than he was trying to use Ben to be the person he was going to go into.
I,
He didn't know about the dyad until they show up together.
it literally says it's the only thing he didn't plan for was the dyad. So it's very,
He's
I
not
don't know.
so.
I thought it would make more sense in the book, but it doesn't.
As someone with relatives with dementia, it feels like, I don't want to make fun of this, but it honestly does feel like Palpatine has dementia.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't remember what he's
just like
trying to
falling
do.
apart. Yeah.
It feels like he's not scary. Like, he's scary, but he's like scary in like in a boomer kind of way, how they can wreck the earth.
Very disappointed about this because, like, surely they could have found a way to make it make sense, but they didn't. All right, Melody. Oh, Melody. I think this is Melody. We know.
Yes, it's Melody. We know. Yeah.
Say fanboys don't see TLJ as canon. They consider 9 to be 8 and 9. They completely reject TLJ as part of the story. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. There are plenty of fanboys that dislike both TLJ and Tross. Not that they should get much credit, but like, but even if you erase TLJ, there's still a lot of continuity errors or just issues from The Force Awakens to now, I think. But yeah. I don't know, and we'll never really know if that, I don't know. There's too many layers of complications now.
I don't know what to do with canon anymore.
At least for the saga, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good boy. We're going to move into a big thematic thing. Healing versus destroying versus sacrificing.
Yes. I had a revelation with this book.
I'm excited for this party.
Oh my God. This is because, like, when we first got out of the film, I was like, they literally created healing so that Rey could die, so that Ben could sacrifice himself to give her his life force. Like, they created healing and they created limited life forces, which to me seemed to go against, like, how the Force works. Because to me, I'm like, well, sure, like, everybody has a life force, but the Force moves between those life forces. So it's not necessarily a given that someone could drain their life force by giving it to somebody else, because there's always the idea that the Force is moving through them all the time.
Yeah, and you can use the Force. And actually, there's this really cool moment where Rey feels the force of the ocean around her when she's healing Ben, but she chooses to use her own life force rather than trusting in the Force. And it's almost like a mistake. Because then I
was so confused about that part.
I thought it was cool. I was like, wow, you know, the comparison to the tide, which is always like a big thing for me because of Legends of Luke Skywalker, like surfing metaphors. So this one specifically for Josh Jones.
yeah, I thought about the two when she brought up the waves.
Yeah, the waves. And she's like, oh, the ocean is full of life. Like, I could plug into the Force. But no, I better use my own life force.
Yeah, it was almost like they were worried, or like maybe Carson herself was worried about stumbling into the realm of, well, you can't destroy or create energy. You have to transfer it, right? Or it has to like change state. they were getting into too much of a sciencey interpretation, meaning like if Rey would have drawn off the energy of the ocean, she would have killed life in the ocean
or something like that. But that's not like the Force. Like,
because we have a very Western interpretation, which we'll get into this later, but like the Western meets the Eastern interpretations of these themes, it's literally coming head to head in this film and in this book even more so. I think like it's not, there's a huge misinterpretation of like these Buddhist ideas all throughout this. But I think what's really interesting in terms of this theme, in terms of like her lightning powers, this is really odd. And I know this is weird, but Ray Carson was like, she was like tripping into it in a weird way, which was that and I'll read the quote. So the book suggests that like the lightning power was unlocked because of her healing the snake. It says here, it says here, healing the Vexus had exhausted her, but it had also opened up new avenues of the Force to her. Something about both giving and taking, about a more perfect oneness than she'd understood before. So I think in this moment, Rey has opened up herself more to the Force, but that means the potential of both the light and the dark.
Well, and like it's very clear that Rey throughout the book struggles with trusting the Force. Like that's a big thing that like is brought up a lot, and that like to be able to do the things that she needs to do, she has to rely on almost like her own brute strength, where it's like it's almost at her fingertips that trusting the Force would mean that she has everything that she needs. But it's not there. Like it doesn't go there.
No, it doesn't. And again, like she's afraid of a part of being like distrustful of the Force is that she's afraid of her own power. And there's a weird line where Finn says they're coming for the power that she has, and this is before she uses lightning. Like the First Order troops are coming for them after she healed the snake, and Finn in his like internal monologue is like they're coming for Rey because of her power.
Yeah.
Like, explicitly. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, lots of people in the chat are commenting on how it's like a video game unlocking.
Yes.
And I hate that because like that's not the Force.
Yeah, it's like the first what like thing that you get, like skill perk in the tree of skill perks, and it opens you up to all of these new things, including where you can choose between a light path or a dark path. And Rey should have chose the middle path.
Yeah.
She didn't.
She didn't. No. No.
So anyways, so it's the whole theme here is interesting. Basically healing and sacrifice are intertwined. Healing is sacrifice, and sacrificing yourself is healing in some form or fashion. Because Rey's act of healing Ben, it's the same as Leia dying to reach out to him. It's like, everybody does it as a Skywalker. Like even Luke projecting himself is a form of like healing in a weird way, right? It's just very odd to me that all of these things kind of ran together and became more convoluted in the book than they were in the film.
Yeah.
Because it was
it shows apparently where the issues lie almost because of the change of medium. We just got a new one from Gallius Wren. Thank you very much. Wow. In the Tross documentary, Terrio mentions that Sidious expected the dyad to come together on the dark side because he was trying to do that, and that comes out actually in the book where it's like he was trying to make a dyad and his bastard tried to make a dyad. But whoops, Ben turned and they came together on the light, or at least in some draft. So it's like I don't think people understand marriage and relationships.
Yes, because that was such a weird thing for Terrio to say in the documentary, that it was a romantic dyad. Campbell's
Yeah.
romantic
The
dyad.
Campbell romantic dyad. It's like, do
Yeah.
you even know what that means, dude?
No. So, but then in the book, it very casually is like, oh, Palpatine had tried to form a dyad with a Vader. It's like, wait a minute. No, you did not. Like, it's just very odd to like create something for the purpose of having these characters come together so it makes sense to some people who maybe were not willing to accept it in a romantic partnership, but then to kind of walk 5 steps back and say, well, it's really just a more powerful rule of two.
Yeah. It's it's a Chekhov's gun of
Yeah.
thematic things.
Yeah. Of thematic things.
Like it's a thematic element that was never used correctly, or actually Ray Carson does a very good job of, and we're going to get to the romantic stuff, don't worry.
Yeah.
um yeah.
Yes. All right. So,
Briefly, because we never actually put a line item in here. No, we'll just move on. It's okay. I don't need to talk about that. Ben's POV. It is improved immeasurably by the book.
Yes. It's something.
So it is exactly what Raylos and this podcast has been saying all along. He believes this negative self-talk. It's actually very, very apparent. Like there's quotes that are taken out of context that you might have seen on Twitter where he's like, nobody cared about me, blah, blah, blah. But he realizes like that was all his own lies and Snoke and Palpatine in his head. He realizes that at like the key moment when he's healed.
Mm-hmm.
In Ben's perspective, Rey represents his journey and his goal, like the thing that he is trying to get to. Mm-hmm. And there's this like ultimate kind of quote when he like realizes like Kylo stared at his officers down, Hux visibly shaken. Good. Prepare to crush any worlds that defy us, he spat out. In the meantime, my knights and I will hunt the scavenger. The Emperor wanted the scavenger dead, but Kylo had other plans. He wanted to kill the past. Yes, rule supreme over the galaxy. Certainly. And the massive fleet on Exegol would help him do that, but his ambition cut into his being was the thought of reigning side by side with her. They were connected. They had defeated Snoke. They would be invincible. This concept in Kylo's mind, it just completely flies in the face of Palpatine's perspective of what happened with Snoke, and like this was a trial, and like it's just literally it's very pure Reylo, like exactly how we've always pictured it. He's an idiot. He sees her as the thing that he wants, and he doesn't understand that like he can't exist in the darkness and pull her down to it. And that's like his motivating play throughout, like him doing like his motivating actions to like her fighting with the ship with him, and like him pushing her is like him being selfish. And he realizes through her selflessness by healing him that if he is to be worthy of her, he must also be selfless. And it's done very well. It's all culminated in the Han, Ben, Leia moment scene. It's reflected very well in the book. I want to highlight that I felt the healing. The fight before was kind of stupid. I don't know. It was, not stupid, but like it was what it was.
Yeah, it was there. It was there because it was in the movie.
But like the Han stuff and the Leia stuff and how she felt in the last moments, with the exception of Luke telling her to die already, Hurry up and die
Yes.
already, Leia.
So weird. It was so strange. Yeah, I wanted to mention that like after every single scene that Ben and Rey have together, Ben's internal is like, the next time I see her, she will be with me.
Yeah.
Every single time. And it's hilarious because it's like, wow, there's nowhere else this character can develop right now, because like Ray Carson is understandably saying Ben only wants Rey. Like literally that's his only goal. That's all he wants. Nothing else makes any sense.
It's
And you
the
know what's
only
funny?
thing that makes sense to him, so he is going for it. I also appreciate, sorry, finish your thought. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, I just thought it was really, because like I don't know what was in the script and I don't know what his direction was, because there are parts in the movie that don't look like that's the case.
Yeah.
So that was very odd for like Ray Carson, even so much so to the point where when he wrecks the TIE fighter, right? So when he's literally like driving at her full speed in the desert, he's like, I'm just gonna like test her out. I'm just gonna see how much she can push her powers. I'm gonna get her to show me who she really is. And then he wrecks it, and his first thought is, wow, I'm so stupid. Like, what does he say? He says he was an idiot. Like, that's what it says. Like, it's literally the freaking fan fiction ever, you know? It was so weird. And yet, like I said, like at the end of every scene, next time she will turn. Next time. It's just really sad that like there's no more like development for him. There's no more growth for him other than that through so much of this.
Yeah. But there isn't a lot of development for Rey other than just kind of like there's just not a lot of like it's like the Oral Knots song, like Let's Go Reylo, like that's what's going on in their brains. It's like if they had just gotten ahead and done that earlier, we would have had a more interesting like play with the dynamic between the two of them.
Yeah, but Rey Palpatine messed everything up.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's get romantic. Let's go Reylo. Come on, Reylo. On to the dyad. I really love this quote from Ray Carson just to kind of set stuff up. Rey and Ben are a dyad in the Force. How do they help each other become their best? And Rey said, we've all had that experience of knowing someone who makes us a better person. For me, it's my husband and a few close author friends. Our perspectives sharpen each other. Our reciprocal trust helps us be our truest selves together, and our deep mutual knowing provides comfort and peace. I imagine being part of a dyad is similar, except 11 billion times more intense. So this was from a StarWars.com interview with her, and they married. Yeah.
Love that. Yeah, that's what her note actually says.
Yes, and the thing that we have to acknowledge is being with Ben, she is her true self and no longer alone, and that is very clear in the text. Being with anyone else is like being alone and choosing to be alone. And she has no choice about being with Ben any longer. Yeah. So how can we not be sad about the ending of this book / movie?
Oh yeah. And there's more there too to be mad about.
I know.
The other stuff we'll talk about, but yeah, just this alone is just, it's enough for, you know, I mentioned this in my video I made recently, like a conflict in love is enough for one movie. It's enough for three movies. To push it aside in favor of all these other plot points, it's saying that love is not as important, and love, it doesn't, you know, matter as much. The culmination of this entire story, the entire Skywalker saga, the climax is in Rey connecting with all the Jedi of the past, not her and Ben deciding to be together.
Yeah, which would have been transcendent from a character's perspective, but metatextually, this is saying it's more important to hang on to old ghosts.
Yes.
Than to create and form something new.
Right.
Again, not Ray Carson's fault.
No. And the book, again, just like it just magnified those issues even more.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate. I mean, there's some amazing things about this book that, like, it's infinitely more consumable from my perspective than the movie. And does some miracles with the POVs. And you and I were just chatting, like, before we got going on how it's like anything to do with Leia, Rey, and Ben is like gold star. Amazing.
Yeah.
It's frustrating sometimes because you're like, get over it, idiot. But, like, it feels good and it feels realistic. Everything else feels like there wasn't enough meat to hang on to actually make quality textual symbolism than if it's just, you know, a repetition of what happened in the movie.
Yeah.
Descriptive wise, I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of back and forth in just, you know, like characters talking back and forth. That was really funny in the film. Like there was a lot of like funny like moments that, you know, like JJ had a hand in writing because it was so JJ humor. But in the book, Ray Carson is like, yeah, here you go, here's the scene. It's written just like the movie. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, it's like
it's so funny.
I don't know. It's like there wasn't a lot of editorial notes maybe put on there, or like there wasn't a lot of massaging, but there was a lot of massaging and a lot of like pulling out the important pieces of the Ben and Rey stuff. Like it is quality. They tried to make it good.
Yeah.
Which, if you're going to read the book, you're going to enjoy those pieces if you're into that relationship.
Yeah. Definitely.
There's no way it's not romantic. I don't know what to say.
I still have to say something. I like everything that Ray Carson wrote. Sorry. Like everything Ray Carson wrote with the Ray and Ben thing, except for the kiss.
Oh.
I don't like the kiss.
It was weird.
It was very weird. It was weird because like Ray didn't have any time. She didn't accept anything that had to do with Ben, which of course she didn't in the film, you know, it wasn't expected. But then it, you know, it came to the kiss, and you know, she did give him a kiss of gratitude, and there is like a weird feeling that one can get where she wanted to get to know Ben, but she didn't know him according to the book, right?
Yeah, because the connection only felt right when he was Ben, and so she's barely gotten a chance to be with him.
Which is like so contradictory to The Last Jedi, because in The Last Jedi and then going into
she called him Ben in The Last Jedi. She felt like she had gotten to Ben in The Last Jedi, so it's like it's not like you didn't know him. So again, it's like that the things that are being pulled out by the problems of the movie itself trying to repeat, you know, B8 and 9 and rewrite 8 to 9. I don't know.
God, it kills me.
I kiss my husband in gratitude all the time.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, it's almost like, you know, Carson saw the kiss and she felt that way because she felt it was, you know, kind of out of nowhere. And like the Raylos were like, this has to happen. This is the meat of the story. This is the only thing that is guaranteed to happen.
Yes.
It was guaranteed to happen. We all said like we would rather Ben get his redemption than anything else. That has to happen. That happened. Well, what about for Raylo happening? Well, the only guaranteed thing to happen is that they kiss once. Like, and those things happen. Like, it's just, it's funny again, because this is what you said in our like reaction pod to Tross, was just that like there were things that were laid down that the myth had to finish.
Yeah.
And it did finish those things. It just, to me, I'm just like, I wish the description could have been a little different, but that's just me being selfish.
It was fine for me. It made me actually a little weepy because I enjoyed what was written. It worked for me based on, yeah. We kind of already talked about the World of Two stuff and the dyad connection for the Sith.
We
Yeah.
skipped ahead to that. So
But I do want to talk about the dyad and death.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay, so this is a massive spoiler thing, so close your ears if you don't want to hear it. What happens to Ben? Rey is shooketh. She is empty after he's thrown into the pit. She's empty when he is dead. She cries her eyes out and is like shook. And then like she hears his voice.
No one is ever really gone.
No one is ever really gone. All right, let's discuss.
I have a qualm.
Yes?
I think no one is ever really gone is a cop-out.
Yes, it is literally trying to leave the door open.
I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. I don't think they should bring Ben back. I think it'll cheapen the story even further if they do. And everybody hates me when I say that. And I lose like 10 followers every time I say that. But you know what?
I'm going to log on to Twitter and be like, bye, Ty's followers. She said it again.
I said it again. Every time I say this, a fairy loses their wings. And I'm just sharing the truth, okay?
I'm clapping.
If they walk back on this, they will lose all of their legitimacy as any kind of storytellers.
That they haven't
whatsoever.
already by all of the retcons?
Well, the story group wasn't consulted for this film as far as we can see, or as far as we know from rumor. So if the story group decides to walk back on this, yeah, I think that I think I would lose a lot of respect for them as storytellers, because you gotta deal with what you're given, and this is what they were given, and they have a chance to fix it in plenty of other ways that do not require them to bend and break the myth even further in order to bring this character back alive.
Okay, I'm going to talk about an Eastern religion thing.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
With reincarnation, a sacrifice like this, not having it happily ever after, means that you're going to be reborn to fix the mistakes of the past, which means these characters will be reborn as new people, a new dyad far in the future, and it is ultimately the best way to tell the story is to show the repetitive dyad story where they are reborn to fix the mistakes of the past, and they get a chance to have fate written well.
This is the only way to fix this, in my opinion. Like, honestly, this is the way to fix it.
I think Lost Husband would be dope.
Yeah, I think Lost Husband would be so cool.
Like, she goes and drags his ass. Well, so there's a couple of prerequisites for this, and this is where, like, no one's ever really gone. He is literally stuck between worlds. He is stuck. He can't move on to being a Force ghost or being in the ever after, becoming one with the Force. He is stuck. He is in some way tortured. I'm writing a fanfic badly about this concept because there has to be a character impetus to drive the story in that direction. There has to be a reason for Rey to want to save Ben. And so if he's at peace, there is no reason for him to go and be saved. They could still do that and bring him back successfully, but it would have to be like an Isis and Osiris Lost Husband situation, where Isis goes and tries to find her husband. And then they decide to live in the in-between.
So this is like, anybody who is familiar with like DC Comics, like, let me know, because I'm pretty sure that hold on, I'm multitasking as you can see. So Hawkman and Hawkgirl.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay, so like I'm pretty sure
they are reborn.
Yes,
Yes.
and there's this thing with them, kind of like they're like cursed. At least this is how it was done in it was, that's how it was done in Smallville. I think that, like, Smallville, there was like a small little version of them that popped
Yep.
up, and I'll never forget it because I was like obsessed with this idea, and it was the first time I'd seen it was in Smallville, and they had said that every time they find each other, one of them dies.
Yes. Yes. Until they fix the problem. Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
this would
The
be
curse.
perfect. This would be perfect for this story. And then one couple, hopefully the next one, can
Yeah.
figure this out, you
Well, and
know?
it's easier to, because we're probably not going to get Adam and Daisy back, and it would just, like, it would solve a lot of the connection to the Skywalker saga. They could build their own, hey, there's a new problem in the galaxy and the Dyad is back, and maybe they have dreams of the past, which would be a really cool way to, spiritually tie things to the Skywalker saga, and answers that they find could be presented to them through their past incarnations, and they could go way, 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 way far in the past too to show these answers. There's just a
Yeah.
lot of ways that you could deal with it. Um,
Yeah, the Prime Jedi is something that did not show up again. And it was a brilliant, addition, I think, to like the lore.
mhm.
But that's directly tied into this whole dyad thing,
Yeah, it
if you
is.
ask
Yeah.
me. Like,
No, it is. It is. Yeah. It
yeah,
it most
so
definitely is. So there's so many strings that they could pull on, and it's just a matter of if they want to. And I just don't know what is easier for them. Personally, I think it's easier to go way far in the future and build build a new dyad.
yeah.
Uh I would love Lost Husband. I think it would be amazing. I would love an animated cartoon show, because I don't think they're going to get the real actors back.
No, they're not, which is why, yeah, like people are saying, oh, it could be a cartoon, or no, that's I don't want it. Okay, you can have it. I
But
don't want it.
you're going to watch it if it comes out.
Uh, but I don't want it. I didn't want to read this book either, but I read it.
You
Like,
read it because I asked you, and I owe you a favor now. So I owe her like a chunk of my soul now, because I was like, I need somebody to read this with, and he's going to do a good job with me. Oh, man. All right.
okay, so
I brought this up before, and I just want to reiterate. Evil guys shouldn't win in fairy tales, i.e., predict the ending.
yeah,
Let's just
especially like Disney movies, princess movies, all these kinds of things we've seen over and over again. Like, as soon as the evil man starts monologuing, everything that he says is going to be wrong. It's
yeah.
going to be the exact opposite of what he
Except
says.
he was right.
Except Palpatine was right.
Eh.
I'm still salty about this one. Like, obviously, again, things that I didn't expect to be corrected by the book, but I was like hoping to be a little more at peace with them, and I just got angrier.
Okay, I do want to talk about in-universe implications, because this made me question a lot of stuff when the book came out, and then we had the visual dictionary that confirmed all these things. But like literally everybody knows about the Sith now. It's like nobody's surprised. Like, oh, the Sith, and it's like just the fact that they speak the language, and Beaumont knows the band language, which makes me question his backstory.
Yeah.
Also, droids can't speak the language, so like, is there a software update that they all plug into that was like given out where they can't speak the language? That makes me worried for all droids across the entire galaxy. Maybe it's similar to Last Shot, how there was like that signal that went out that made everybody murder droids, and how can we really trust these mass signals that are coming out from our government? Anarchy. No, I don't know. There's lots of lots of weird questions. The Sith were more prevalent than we gave them credit for.
Yeah.
I thought 2 was a thing. I guess not.
Yeah.
Oh, everybody knows everything.
Yeah.
There's so much out of universe knowledge that is inserted in universe that I question a lot of like
Well,
the
because
value.
according to Terrio, the legends are still canon. And everyone knows all these things because he's literally writing in a different universe. I mean, when I made my video on the
I'm
documentary,
tired.
I know, me too. So the video I made on the documentary, this girl on YouTube, she posted a lovely comment, but somewhere in the comment she said, "Well, to be fair, the dyad was in Legends," like as if that saved it. But then I was like, "What do you mean it was in Legends? Like, what are you talking about?" And I tried to find it and I couldn't find it, and I asked her and she never responded. But it's definitely not in Legends, but there is this idea of a more powerful union, and Jesse can correct me and clarify for me. But it was, it's apparently in Legends, like this is a thing, and I don't, and I think he actually told me on Twitter once that this was kind of a thing, but it's never referred to as a dyad.
No. Well,
and that's got implications
so
to
we
it.
kind of have
Mythically.
Bastila and Revan. They were like spiritually connected.
Yeah, Jesse just said, yeah, Revan and Bastila. But like, if they were a dyad, like, I mean, I think that the term dyad, again, this is used to try to make some kind of mythological meaning behind this pairing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas them having a force bond like Revan and Bastila, to me, is already enough. Like,
yeah,
there was no need for this extra layer. Like you said, like the universe implications of it's going to be odd.
Well, it just makes it even more depressing. A force bond is bad enough, which we have explained as a bad thing in some canon books now. Like, having a force bond is like literally like you have semi control over that person, right?
Yes.
Whereas a dyad makes it pure, I guess.
Well, I don't know.
They're married. They married spiritually.
And just to clarify, because somebody in the chat asked, Terrio says Legends is canon. I made a bad joke. Terrio, I don't know what Terrio thinks about Legends, but he had a Legends book on his table while he was doing.
He referred to the Jedi Trials, which are still Legends.
Yeah, there's just a lot of things that kind of. Oh, and there's like that quote from an interview with Daisy, where Daisy says he has a bunch of Jedi Bibles.
Yeah.
She called them that, and I was like, oh, or like Star Wars Bibles or something, and I was like, well, that's probably a bunch of Legends books, because there's nothing
in new canon because they didn't want to nail stuff down.
Yeah. So again, no, I'm not saying that Legends is bad, and I'm not saying like people taking concepts from those are bad. I'm just saying that that's probably where he's coming from. Gloria Holcomb says they promised fairy tale and gave Greek tragedy. Yeah.
Greek tragedy gives you catharsis.
That's what I was gonna say. That there's a catharsis, but there's no catharsis.
This is just bad writing.
Yes. There's no tragic hero. Like, Kylo's not Oedipus Rex. He's not Hamlet. There is no catharsis for our hero here.
Yeah, he doesn't succumb to his hubris.
Rey doesn't suffer as a tragic hero at all.
There is no
whatsoever.
tragic hero.
There is no tragic hero. Yeah. No, it's not. It's sad.
Yes.
And yes, this movie, I think Marie Claire had summed it up, because we said at first it was like a tragedy too, but then the more we thought about it, we were like, it's more like a really ridiculously complex slasher film from like
it's a horror movie. No,
movie.
It's a horror movie. We have like there's horror movie elements in the Clone Wars. Like there's episodes which fall under the horror movie genre, but this is our first Star Wars movie that classifies as horror, because you have the violin screech when you come to Exegol. You have like the horror of the flashes and You have
Yeah, the flashes.
our heroine dressed all in white who's virginal because that's the only way she's gonna live. Hello, Scream, the movie.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and that's an American monomyth problem.
Yeah, that's an American monolith problem. Yeah, and if those who don't know, like, go back and watch the film, the the video that I did like a few videos back about Tross breaking the myth, and I talk about the American monomyth a bit.
Yeah, if you
And
haven't
that's what
watched
it is.
Ty's videos, like, go and just watch all of them. They're really, really good.
Thanks. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I know some people are tripping up on some of the things that I'm saying, and I'm sorry. We have terminology we use a lot because there's, you know, like, there's things that we say, and then there's my videos that I've made, and that's the kind of assumptions that we're going off of. So apologies, we're not explaining every concept thoroughly.
Oh God, let's talk about the Force and the dark side and the light side.
Okay, so
R.I.P. Force.
This is, yeah, so just so everybody knows, we got like 3 more themes to talk about, like major ones. So the dark side and the light side. The quote is, did you put this? No, I put this one in here. So yeah. Is this, yes, okay, so this is Kylo thinking about how to be more powerful, basically, and as powerful as Palpatine. And he says, the path to the dark side lay in succumbing to one's desires. There's a lot to break apart here. Lay in succumbing to one's desires. But his deepest desire, the thing he wanted most, would require planning and patience. The Emperor had figured out how to embrace a plan so long-suffering and painstakingly careful it boggled the mind, and he did it without being tempted by the light even a little.
Oh.
There's some really wicked story implications this has.
All right, extrapolate.
So a lot of my issues with a lot of like the way that George talked about the light and the dark was that he made it simple for kids.
He made it binary, which is a challenge from a where are we trying to get to so we're actually whole and complete individuals perspective.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And we've had like Filoni, who understands that there's a transcendence factor.
Yes.
Right? He understands there is a third way. There is your own path. There is trusting in yourself and believing in who you are, right? Like how Luke refused to finish his training and he decided to go save his friends. That was a good thing.
Yes.
You know, Rey repeats that in The Last Jedi.
Choosing to not kill your father, putting aside your lightsaber, the ultimate light side thing, but against what everybody told him he should do for the good of the galaxy. He found his own path, and that is the most important thing.
Yes. And that's like you said, like there's this binary that's set up in the very beginning, but then there's always this way to like lean towards the light by redefining what that is, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, we get this idea that, again, let me say it this way. They never really define what the light is. Like, they never really define like what the good path is.
The only thing they say as an option for a good side person is to be a Jedi. It doesn't specify more than that. And being a Jedi is this like nebulous thing. It's like saying, oh, go be a doctor.
Yeah.
It's not even like, what does that mean from a spiritual perspective? Because that's what this is supposed to be all about. It's about the moral choices that you have to make as a human, as an adolescent trying to grow up. You're like, how do I make these good choices in the world? It's like, oh, I guess I can try to become a doctor. No, you just try to be your own person, choosing the light as much as you can. And that doesn't come through by saying the most important thing that anyone can become is a sexless nun.
Yes. And there's and I'll get to the next, like the greatest act, which is sacrifice, right? But that's a whole other thing, because and that's something that, again, that was created by Tross, because the repeated things like Yoda liked to say. So Yoda original trilogy is: fear is the path to the dark side, fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering.
That was in the PT. It was in the Phantom Menace.
That was in Phantom Menace. It was not in the OT?
Nope.
Wait, but I thought in PT he says attachment leads to jealousy, the shadow of greed. That is, does he say that's the other as well?
Yes, he says
so
both.
He says all this in the so he says all this in the prequel trilogy, and now we have like this new kind of weird twist on it, which is the path to the dark side lay in succumbing to one's desires. But what does Ben desire? And so again, you're getting to the problems with the original, with exactly what George set up himself. And again, I'm not saying that George was wrong. I'm saying the interpretation was wrong, because Yoda in the PT says that fear leads to anger, leads to hate, leads to suffering. It's a slippery slope, he says in like a interview.
It's like you can't even deal with that. You can't even go near that because it's too slippery. So you must deny yourself everything.
And that is the problem with this. Attachment leads to these bad things as well. And again, without exploring what the actual idea of attachment is, because attachment was not somebody that you loved. Like, attachment was the Buddhist idea of attachment. So you're presenting these ideas without actually distilling them, right? You're not distilling them for kids. You're not distilling from adults. You're just using the word that means something totally different in a Western context than it does in an Eastern context. And we never get the transcendent path. We never get what,
because the Jedi are wrong. Like that's the thing about Return of the Jedi, is that the Jedi tell Luke Skywalker to kill his father, and he chooses, because of the attachment, not to. The Jedi are wrong. And so what we needed was the synthesis of that, which is that love can transcend and heal the galaxy. And it just falls short on so many levels. It doesn't get there, but that is a commentary on the movie. And it still doesn't get there with the alchemical union that happens at the end, or the attempted alchemical union with the kiss.
Yeah. And I know if anybody sees this or is, watching this now, the Buddhist idea, of attachment, it's about, oh my God, somebody already commented, I knew it. It's about like, it's about living within the moment. It's about letting go of the past, letting go of obsession, letting go of love without, here, Gallus Ren said, the Buddhist version is love without ownership, compassion without possession, but never explained. Exactly. It's never explained. It's never explained. And they had a chance to explain it.
The only thing that we get to is literally Ben's actions when he turns to Ben.
Yeah.
Him fulfilling that is that. He is living in the most, run towards hell, towards your light, forget the past, just move forward way.
Yeah.
And he dies for it. So.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. It falls apart. Like anything that was presented as like, oh, this is the ultimate truth. This is how you should live your life. Okay, well, now you're a martyr. Which brings me to the greatest act. And this is, aside from being a Jedi, in order to be on the light side at all, in order to, because again, we have all these warnings in the prequel trilogy and in this trilogy, like everything is warning us, kids, don't do what's wrong, don't have these, or don't focus on these emotions, like, focus not on these things. It doesn't say what to focus on necessarily. Do the right thing, be a Jedi. But then in this, it's also presenting, well, you could also give up your life.
Oh yeah, you can go further than that.
You can go further.
There's actually like a really good part where when Rey actually passes away, or almost passes away due to, due to the Force, um she's like I gave everything,
Yeah.
you know and this is
And that's seen as a good thing. Yeah.
yeah, it's seen as like, you can only exist in this world if you give everything of yourself for
Mhm.
for the galaxy. Like, you're only a good person if you are literally perfect.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that's a good message, actually, because like, when you think about what the transcendent message should be, it should be that, we have the selfishness on one side, which is the dark side, and we have the selflessness on the other side, and in the middle is the self. Like, what do we want? What is balanced for ourself? And in that, through Kylo and Rey, if they had lived, we would have actually had the full fulfillment of that union, right?
Yeah.
And them being together means that they are successful and heal the galaxy.
Yes. And glad you brought this up, because balance as a word only appears one time in this novel, and
Bring the
it's
balance, like I once did, which was
yeah,
Anakin Skywalker
Anakin.
saying that, which doesn't mean anything, because that
It
now
doesn't
we
mean
know
anything.
that the balance never lasts, which means, from a samsara perspective, the war never ends.
Yeah, and what's really sad is, like, in the TLJ novel, it was mentioned 11 times, as if it meant something,
Mm-hmm.
as if we should remember
Well, and
this,
it
as
was
if it was
important in
important.
TFA too.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was important in TFA. And it was like, I remember it being mentioned in TFA, like, I think at least like 2 or 3 times. And it was actually referencing, like, you, like, this needs to happen, this is important. But here it's like an afterthought.
It is, yeah. And
But
like,
anyways.
it's saying something like very extreme, which is that, um like, in society, we often view, like, as a parent, for example. So this isn't a little aside. As a parent, if you are not a perfect parent, if you are not the person that is always doing things for your children, you are a bad person,
Mm-hmm.
right? That is the same messaging. This martyrdom, it's just as bad how Ben needed to die. He needed to be atoned by being a martyr. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing. Men often feel like the only way that they can atone for their mistakes is by self-sacrifice. So, like, you hear
Yeah.
these stories about how, I'm divorcing my wife, so I've got to, like, move out, and I can't be with my kids, and I can't, I have to give them all my money and things like that. It's like, there's this concept that to atone, to live, to be on the light side, you must give up everything that you are. And we
Yeah.
have that repeated literally in the book when Rey is, in her final moment. And I'm just going to kind of read a little bit from the book here. I have to pull out the big ass book because you had the electronic version and I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Palpatine had wanted Rey for himself. Hello, Dark Union.
Mm-hmm.
But she chose to be their conduit, their vessel. She was all the Jedi. So she is not herself. She sacrifices herself for everybody, which is, yes, entirely selfless, but not realistic, not balanced, not anything but pure martyrdom, which is
Mm-hmm.
why she dies too.
Yep. Yeah.
She's not
The
quite dead though.
the legacy of the Skywalker, of the Skywalker name is sacrifice. And
Yeah.
even Rey did it, so she earns the name as well, because she did it too. Uh All right. Oh, I wanted to mention this on the aside about Ray's saber, because this is like interesting. I mean, I guess like I guess Terrio and JJ created Ray's saber. I'm assuming that's what happened. I don't
Could have been
know.
just like the creative prop department.
It could have been because they created the dagger. I love that everybody blamed that on JJ because it like ripped off the Goonies. It didn't. If you watch the documentary, there
No.
was a lot of different versions of that became the dagger, and JJ did not create them. Anyways, so the quote from the book is, her lightsaber glowed white gold, and she gazed at it a long moment. It was single bladed, with an outer casing and emitter salvaged from her quarterstaff. The final result felt like the exact inverse of the lightsaber held by the dark ray of her vision, and she loved it. It was beautiful. It fit so perfectly in her hand, and she would carry it with her forever.
Okay.
Ew. Ew. There's so much wrong with this. I was so excited about reading about Rey's lightsaber because I was like, what is it going to mean to her? Oh my God.
No, it's perfect. It's pure.
It's yellow. Like, no, it's not yellow. It's white gold. No, it's not two-sided like her staff was. It's just made from the scrap of her staff. It's just one-bladed. What? It's the exact inverse of the lightsaber held by Dark Ray, because she like tossed all that out, even though earlier in the book, sorry, I'm ranting, she pictured herself with the two-bladed saber.
She did.
Like her staff, and she even says with a hinge in the middle for portability.
Yep, she's so disgusted by the darkness within herself that she must not have anything to do with it, including the name, including the type of saber, including her own desires, because she's become a nun.
Just throw it all away. Because that's how we deal with our baggage. That's how we deal with the dark side. It's a binary choice. We have no other option. We have to be a Jedi. We have to choose a light. We have to sacrifice ourselves. If there's like, I don't know, like I don't understand it. I don't understand it.
It's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing. It's, again, like I keep telling people, like, tell me why in kid logic, not in pretzel logic. Tell me in kid logic why this makes sense. But people keep giving me pretzel logic. So
I love that saying, by the way, pretzel logic.
And there we go. We got
and
there.
And yeah, back to the Dark Ray stuff. Like both Dark Ray and Leia said the exact same thing.
You talked about
don't
that
be
already.
afraid of who. I know, yeah. I did. I just want to reiterate that and pull it back to say, so instead of listening to Rey or the darkness within yourself, which is still saying something that is valuable to you, it's valuable to examine what the dark things are saying, but only when you have the mental energy to do it, right? So when you're safe and when you're not starving and when you're not running from a war, is to sit back and be like, hey, maybe I should call myself Palpatine and, try to heal the wounds of the galaxy.
Yeah, with that name.
With that name. Like whatever. What the Skywalkers did. Except nobody said anything about Vader and everybody knew about Palpatine. And, maybe it would be something that would actually, heal the galaxy to say, hey, I understand and I've integrated my darkness. No, she rejected her darkness, which we know psychologically means that it's allowing it to grow. Her garbage, her baggage is being allowed to grow, and she will have to deal with it eventually. And I don't know.
Yeah. We talked about this before about her having like a dark, like a villain's beginning story and whatnot. And this is just giving us more proof.
I do want to say, like somebody commented, like being a nun is fine and being ace is fine and being sexless is fine. But that's not what Rey wanted. She literally
Yeah.
looks at children. She wants belonging. She wants a real family that she can call her own. And she doesn't get any of that. And we're about to get into that in a massive way. The character is never presented as somebody who wants to be alone without a family. She has little tiny dolls and she home makes. So I don't know. I feel like she's always wanted a family.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, you want to get into the next part?
Okay, this one's gonna hurt. Um, there's a big theme for Rey that's established through the whole book, that no one understands her and that she's always alone. And it's in contradiction to the words presented from the characters that are talking to her. She only feels understood and accepted by Ben. Even Finn, she doesn't think understands her. Finn doesn't understand her in many ways. He leaves her alone. The end of the novel actually makes sure you know she's not staying there for good. She leaves on the Falcon, and Finn makes sure that nobody goes with her but BB-8 to go and bury the lightsabers in the sands of Tatooine. Yeah.
So this alone theme, I was thinking about it a lot coming out of the Rise of Skywalker film for the first time, because there's this big like lesson that Poe learns in order for him to have this like rousing speech at the end, right?
Oh yeah, they make you think you're alone, but you're not. Our numbers are greater.
Our numbers are greater. Like Zori tells this to Poe. Lando even kind of repeats it in a different way. Their greatest power is that they make you think that you're alone. And this sat wrong with me for so many reasons. And I, kind of posted on Twitter. No one was really feeling this, but I am leaning into it now, because in the novel it doesn't make any sense, and it makes me feel right about this uneasy feeling that I have, because sometimes you are alone. There might be more of you, of people that are kind of like you, that kind of have similar ideas to yourself. Like there might be other like people, if you're a bleeding heart liberal, there are a bunch of bleeding heart liberals out there that are on your side about many things, right? But you can still feel alone in your political or religious affiliation, right? You can feel alone in like a tight group, and Rey does. And that's what's so frustrating about this, is that it doesn't matter at the end of the day that they had more people and they could defeat the bad guy. That's a whole other issue on its own as far as a theme goes, right? Numbers. Just have more bodies that you can throw at the other side that will eventually die for the cause. But then the idea that they just make you feel like you're alone. You're not actually alone. You feeling alone, that's your fault, because they don't actually, they don't have control over that.
Yeah, you can't control. I can't make you feel not alone. It's just garbage.
It is garbage, especially for kids, especially for kids that do feel alone, like Rey. It's telling Rey that she has power to feel like she's not alone. Like, and this is where this comes up in the novel. And not just the novel, but obviously the story is written this way. Like Marie Claire just described, everything she does is by herself. But then there's this really odd way that the novel goes about tracing the idea that she is alone. It keeps telling us that she's alone. She feels alone. She's worried about connecting with Finn and Poe and other people in the Resistance, because she's afraid of disappointing them, because she felt like she finally found her family, and she doesn't want them to leave her because she's got abandonment issues. And then none of that's given a solution, because there's the one climax of this theme where the Jedi, I forget, I don't know who it is. I don't think it's given a name, but there's a Jedi who says,
alone never have you been, which is Yoda.
It's Yoda. It's Yoda.
Because of
okay, that makes me mad.
Well, it's Yoda. It's Yoda in the movie, and it's how the wording is. It's Yoda in the book too.
Alone, never have you been. That makes sense. It's Yoda. But he tells her that, and then in the scene right after this, she goes back to the resistance base, and the quote is, "She wandered through the base, taking strength and joy in everyone's gaiety, but feeling vaguely alone."
Mm-hmm.
And then, just like you said, when she goes bury the sabers, Finn says he understood that she needed to do this alone. She is still alone. She still feels alone. So what's the point of this? Like, what? Like,
Yeah.
it is so leaned into so much. It kills me. It kills me that Rey had this journey of feeling alone and it was never resolved. And then Poe got this lesson that was seemingly similar. Oh, I almost missed something. In the documentary, the Aki ancestors stuff.
Yeah. We missed that, yeah.
This is important to this as well. The costume designer, whatever his name was, not the costume designer, maybe he was Paul Inglis. Inglis, what was he? He said, I think he was some designer, but he's the one who has the quote where he says in the documentary that this scene was for Rey, for her to witness joy for the first time. To witness
joy, yeah.
Not experience it, but witness it, because she's never seen it. So this is her first time seeing it. But then in the novel, no, not at all. And in fact, there's a part that was written into the novel that wasn't in the movie where Rey sees a little girl run into the crowd, and then her parents get all flustered and go run after her and pick her up. And Rey watches the whole thing just completely shattered.
Yep. Because she always wanted family. No,
yes.
Like literally nuclear family. That is what Rey wanted. And this is so hard as like a woman to witness this story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's awful. It killed me that Ray Carson knew that what was in the film wasn't enough, that she wrote in another little sequence of events that actually did connect Rey to the events.
Mm-hmm.
That had nothing to do with her viewing joy for the first time.
No.
It had her being
alone.
In pain and alone.
Yeah.
And
they could have played it like this is where we have like thematic confusion in some ways. Like they could have played it like Hidden Fortress, where it's like instead of the Festival of the Ancestors being like a festival of life, would have been maybe thematically better, because then it's like, oh, I have something, I need to protect the life of the galaxy. Instead, from a metatextual perspective, we have what Rey is trying to protect is literally the nostalgia of the galaxy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's protecting nostalgia.
She is trying to protect the legacy and the history of the past.
Whereas the entire point of these kind of more Eastern ideas is to let go of the past. It's actually what Kylo was saying. And
yeah,
I mean, that was supposed to be the marriage of these ideas, but it wasn't.
Like the past and the present and the future become the present, and we live in the moment. Yeah. And this is a good segue into legacy and inheritance.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to say, because Jedi Geek Girl said, how many times was the word alone used? And I just did a search. It was used like 34 times.
Oh, Jesus.
So, yeah, do with that what you will. I actually had gone through, I word searched it earlier, and I just kind of looked for the important parts. And that's how I kind of figured out this was a pretty important thing. So, yeah, do with that what you will. 34 times. Yeah, so legacy and inheritance. Does you want to talk about Luke's lightsaber?
I do, actually, because like,
put this in here.
Yeah, lots of people have pointed out like how how Rey views Luke's lightsaber being Luke's lightsaber, and it's like it's Anakin's lightsaber, but like I'm okay with her viewing it as Luke's lightsaber because that's how it was presented to her in TFA. And
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't really have the knowledge in universe to understand the history of that lightsaber. And textually, they never gave it to her. So there's like this quote about, like, you know, I'll earn your brother's lightsaber. Like everybody knows that. And it's more just like she wants to earn the rights to be a Jedi, and she had already healed the crystal itself. Like she used the healing technique that she uses on the snake and on Kylo to heal the crystal, which is actually really dope from a, you know, a symbolic perspective, because it's like the heart of
yeah,
the Skywalkers and things like that. um uh, Luke also, again, doesn't ever care about the lightsaber itself, but I don't really, because like if you view it from the character's perspective, that was her view. She was still viewing it from the legend perspective, and it bothers me less. I still think that she had earned it in TFA, so that still bothers me, but like not referring it to Anakin as Anakin's lightsaber never really bothered me, because like textually it doesn't make sense that you would even know that it was like created by Anakin, and like the history of your car doesn't come with your car.
yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, I didn't have any issue with that. More so the idea, the handing down of the saber took a different meaning in the story this time than it did in previous times, so that was very strange.
It just ended up highlighting how weird some of these moments are, in my opinion. Like you have to do a lot of squinting to enjoy the story in the different mediums. It ends up being weird. And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we get a lot from the POV of the characters, which I knew we would get a lot from, especially Ben's point of view. But it doesn't it's hard to make something out of Dross.
Yes, very much so.
Let's talk about Leia Skywalker Organa Solo, because literally that's what she calls herself in the book.
It's so weird. It's so weird. Like, I don't get it. I really don't get it. But yeah, so the quote that's going to change the way I look at Star Wars forever, honestly. Okay, so she says this while she's like realizing that she's dying. She says, but even if her son never turned back the way Anakin had, she still loved him, and her legacy was still secure. She was Leia Skywalker Organa Solo. As she caressed Han's metal, she fully embraced all those inheritances. She would pass them all to the next generation. Her Skywalker legacy would go to Rey, Organa to Poe, and she would try one last time to pass her Solo legacy to her son.
Okay, so this reminds me of that Marge quote. When I married your father, I took everything, including his DNA.
Wait, what is that from?
It's from The Simpsons. So
that's funny.
It's the Who Shot Mr. Burns episode. And it's like somebody with Simpsons DNA has shot Mr. Burns, and it turns out to be Maggie. But she's like, no, and me too, because when I married your father, I took everything, including his DNA. It's like,
it's hilarious.
I don't understand. Like, I don't understand.
I don't get where it literally is out of left field. It doesn't make any sense. It's almost like, and this is another reason why I asked the question, did she sit down with Terrio and talk to him about it? Because I can see him actually saying this.
Yeah,
there's so many other things that don't fit, but maybe this is something that he had in the liner notes. I don't know.
Like, this might have been a freaking, I don't know, something.
It was a footnote. It was like a footnote.
Yeah.
Like, oh, so this works out perfectly because this goes here and this goes here and this goes here. Like, I don't understand why this was necessary.
And
Even
it
as
and it's like screw Finn.
yeah. Yeah.
Finn's not a person.
Forget the fact that yeah, he has like this, you know, the past of being an ex-stormtrooper and that he probably needs to be kind of like adopted and I don't know, like it's Poe has a family, so that's a thing as well.
We
That
have to
was
unfollow Michelle now because she defends this passage.
what?
No, I just don't get it. I don't understand the meaning
I don't
behind
like it.
it. I can't. I I don't I don't understand it. It feels so weird because now like she can't. She doesn't have any like I don't know. It just feels
Like I will defend the idea of legacy like all the time. I think that's pretty important, but because I think that pass again it fits into the whole idea of like passing down what you know to the generation that comes after you, like taking the things that your parents told you and passing it down, making a more knowledgeable and more wise people. Like that is important to me. But
I love you, Michelle. I would never unfollow you.
I'm just like this whole thing is like Leia's saying she has 3 different legacies, and that doesn't make any sense. She has one legacy. She is Leia.
She is Leia, and that has
Just
been the
Leia.
most important thing about her.
All of those things will go to all of those people, period. They don't have to get split up. That doesn't make any sense. And especially
I
because,
wish
like,
she had said like I hope they all learn from all of the different parts of me. That might have been a better way to say it.
because I don't get the idea that it's tied to the last name. That just makes me mad. It just makes me so mad. Because again, like Poe has the last name. Poe has a family. I don't understand. You know, he doesn't need a last name. He doesn't need a legacy.
Poe had heroes of the resistance himself.
Yeah.
On a side note, and like there is the novel doesn't make Finn a better character because there's nothing to build upon.
Yeah.
It just kind of gives you exactly what's in the movie.
Yeah.
Poe seems like more of an asshole.
Yes.
And it's
Specifically with
accentuated
the...
and it makes me question found families understanding in the galaxy far, far away, because that ain't found family. That's work associates that you fight with all the time. And you're like, I can't wait to get transferred off this project.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the added scenes with Zori did not help at
No,
all. They didn't make Poe look any better. Like
it
you said,
didn't.
they made him
It
look
didn't
worse.
tell us anything except for, oh, you're not alone, Poe. Look at
Yeah.
me help you. It just was plot device. It's like, how? Oh, good. I picked up the key for the next room.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
was video
Exactly.
game plot.
Yeah. And the novel just told us how it happened. But okay, so get back on track. Another thing was like about the legacy thing was that I don't, so there's like a cool joke to me because Ray also like inherited a lot of things, right? So, oh no, your headphones unplugged. So a lot of the things that Ray inherited, apparently Poe also inherited.
Yep.
So she will forever have to share those things with Poe, like the Falcon.
Yep.
They argue about that all the time. BB-8,
Mm-hmm.
they're arguing about that all the time. Finn, right? Finn as
Yep.
a character, they both have inherited Finn. They both have to take care of Finn.
Yeah,
They're gonna fight about
Finn
that
is
all
a
the time.
baby who needs to be taken care of because he can't be trusted on his own. It's weird.
Yeah, co-generals. Okay.
Co-generals.
All right. Leia and Han's legacy. Because Ray got Leia and Han's legacy, and Poe got Han and Leia's legacy. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm just very much not happy about that. Mentioning Poe here. She mentions him again too, right before she dies. I think. But yeah, Leia thinks about Poe like 2 times before she dies, and I'm just like, why? Like they never had anything other than the fact that like he was going to be the next general.
Yeah,
She should have been
it was
thinking
like
about
a work like I'm your general, you're my subordinate who I demote all the time because I'm pissed off at.
yeah. She had a closer relationship with
Daisy?
like General with Holdo.
Although Daisy?
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so like I it was just very odd. It was very odd,
But
but
that doesn't mean anything to the aging audience through squinted eyes.
so, one more thing. One more
I
thing.
I have one thing too on Legacy.
Oh, well, I'll say this first and then you can say your thing. So,
Chewie and
you can say your thing.
Lando still love Ben. And that was
Oh, yeah,
I appreciated that.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. Okay, so the last thing that happened in the novel that really made me mad.
Okay.
Mad.
I mean,
mad,
it's right
mad,
at the
mad.
end, so
It is right at the end, and it made me mad. Was that Luke gave Rey permission to be a Skywalker. When she looks at the ghosts, it says, and I quote, Luke gave her a gentle nod. It's yours, Rey.
thanks, bro.
He literally gave everybody permission to do anything. His voice, according to the novel, rose above the others when the Jedi were all talking to her. You know, he was the ghost that just wouldn't go away. He wouldn't let the women do what they needed to do or be who they wanted to be. He was living through them. All right.
Yeah.
Done being salty.
So, in general, how did you feel about the novel in the end?
I don't like it and I don't want to read it again. I'm good. I will watch the movie probably 3 years from now and I will be like, this is such a dumb film. Oh my God, this is hysterical how bad it is. And that's the joy I will get out of it every single time. I'm not going to.
I might
read the novel
reread
again.
Passages from this book. It's not that I didn't like the writing. It's that cohesively it doesn't hang together because of the script that it was given to be written from. And with that, I would rather spend the next 5 minutes talking about femgaze stuff that we would rather be watching than The Rise of Skywalker.
Yes.
So
yes, we're gonna, enough on a positive note here.
Yeah, we're gonna say this wasn't satisfying for you. We have some suggestions.
Yes.
All right, Ty, you want to start?
Oh yeah, sure. I finished watching till episode 25 of Fruits Basket. Fruits Basket last night. It is so good. It is so femgaze. It is anime. Every single episode I cry so hard. But all the time it's always happy tears, and I cry very easily, by the way, so this is not like, but really like it moves me to tears because it's so happy and so good. So it was, yeah, it's amazing. I finished Beastars in like a day. That was amazing. I'm still getting through The Witcher because I had to restart it with my husband who was really into it.
It's good. Yeah,
it's really good.
Not so much femme. Well, he's hot. It's
Beastars?
No. Oh, sorry,
Witcher?
Beastars. I thought you said Witcher.
Sorry. I did.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about Beastars.
Because you know why, Claire? I've been like waiting for you to like talk about Beastars. Like everybody else.
So Kyle keeps on in the chat talking about Beastars, but
I know that's why I was looking at. Sorry, that's why I was like, wait, Beastars?
No, the Witcher. Yeah, it's good.
The Witcher is the. Go ahead and talk about Beastars. I want to tell you why The Witcher is femgaze.
Okay. So Beastars is an anime based on a manga that is now available on Netflix. It will make you a furry. I'm sorry. There's a lot of
will make you a furry.
Yeah. There's a lot of trigger warnings, so like, you know, maybe read a review of it or look at my trigger warnings that I tweeted out. Essentially it is a high school drama, but like accentuates all of the aspects that Ty and I have talked about from a like balance perspective between two individuals, with anthropomorphizing the masculine as a wolf who is craving and hungry and has to be subdued by culture, and the bunny who is literally like a Persephone insert because she's all about healing and growing, and sexuality, which is Persephone because she's a a fertility goddess, right? So it's got this dynamic of balance between it, and it's pretty amazing.
It is amazing. And I saw a tweet that pointed out that Legoshi, the wolf character, is basically Adam Driver's persona, and I could not agree more. He moves like him, he acts like him, he's got the awkwardness. It's hysterical, and I really just love the characters. They were written really well. Yeah. And a lot of the desires were written really well from a good femme gaze perspective. So
very much. Witcher.
The Witcher is very femme gaze because I have this new theory that I'm working on that might be my next video, because what I was preparing is changing as I'm like
as it does.
Yeah. And I have this new like weird idea of looking at like because like femme gaze is like inherently transformative, because we are not given a lot of written by women stories. A lot of stories that we're given are written by men and then directed or transformed by women, and those are some of the best stories. And there are a lot of things that fall into this basket with film and with television, because a lot of shows that I love are adapted by women for television or written by women for television, and The Witcher is one of them. And obviously, like, The Witcher has a lot of directed by men, written by men, but they found a way. Have you watched it yet, Marie Claire?
Yes, I have finished it. Yes.
You finished it. Okay. So I was rewatching it today with Corey, and I had seen the episode already where Yennefer goes to the ball, and I was like, wait a second, this is Cinderella, because she has a fairy godmother that transforms her so that she can look beautiful for the prince, and she ends up dancing with the prince at the end. And we already know, like, and like there's also like the episode that's basically Beauty and the Beast. All of Ciri's story is basically Little Red Riding Hood. It is the black market of myth that I call it, which is the feminine stories of these tales that were transformed into like published works by men, like the Brothers Grimm and whatnot.
Yeah, because these were all like bedtime stories that women would share with each other, and then they would be captured in print by men, and so it's like this weird like back and forth and transformation.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, like the evil stepmother was actually originally a mom, like the actual mother in the Cinderella story, and there's things in Little Red Riding Hood that were a lot more sexual originally. It was about getting, like, because at the end of the original tale of Little Red Riding Hood, she got into bed with the wolf, and then she gotten eaten, and it was about like not being sexually promiscuous. So yeah, all of these little stories are kind of being interwoven into The Witcher, and it feels like a new fairy tale with a feminine touch on something that was originally written by a man. And I find that incredibly empowering, as a woman, like, to want all of that, like to want the kind of the femme gaze, tough, like gritty stuff, some of the nihilism, but then to have like, because the overwhelming power of the messaging in that story is very much the feminine energy and the feminine power. So yeah,
that's awesome. I think you'll like the end of the first season, and there's more to come, which is good.
Well, I feel like I can't tell you what happens, but
you're gonna like it. I mean, like, it's good. Yeah.
Oh, and Lindsay McGowan said Renfrey in the book was heavily implied to be Snow White. So yeah. Yeah, like, and I think she was named Strike in the book. Yeah, so yeah, there's a lot of things I'm learning about that, but
That's so good. I just
So
finished
cool.
Eternal Love of Dream, which
Hmm.
if you're really into mythology, I recommend both Eternal Love and Eternal Love of Dream, which are just two adaptations with the same actors, basically, of the first book, which is Three Lives, Three Worlds, 3 miles of peach blossoms.
30
Three
30.
3 miles of peach blossoms,
It's
but
much more than
it's on
that.
Netflix. You can find it. Eternal Love of Dream, if you just look up an app called WeTV, you can actually stream it for free. The subtitles are not that great, but it's also available on Viki, which the subtitles are fan made and they're really, really good. The first book has like concepts of Chinese mythology, which will feel very familiar to people, and they actually take part of the kind of second book, which is the entire thing is taken for Eternal Love of Dream, and so you might see kind of crossover, but that's okay. They're both incredibly femme gaze, like literally, like everything that matters to the our heroine is important in the
Hmm.
story, and like literally, yeah, there's moments where it has like it has the tag on older teacher young student tag on drama on
Yeah.
my drama list, and like that is
Yeah.
like incredibly, yeah,
It's
and
very specific as a trope because it
yeah,
doesn't really happen that
because they're
much.
all immortals, and like he
Yeah.
is like really old and she's old, but they're all immortals, so like what is age? And yeah,
Yeah.
she's just
Yeah.
younger mentally from
Oh,
perspective,
it's so
and
good.
she turns into a fox, and so a nine-tailed
Mm-hmm.
fox, and
Mm-hmm.
so there's a lot of mythology happening from a Chinese mythology perspective. So
Yeah.
I highly recommend that. Any Chinese dramas that were written by women, especially as the original story, will give you, or sorry, Asian dramas in general. So there's lots out there. We highly recommend Meteor Garden if you're looking for a Chinese drama that was originally made from a Japanese manga that has been made into multiple adaptations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there's lots of stuff out there to watch and enjoy, and we're gonna probably, if we're dissatisfied with the femme gaze content of Star Wars, we'll point you out some recs to be like, hey, this was better.
Yeah, definitely.
there's
Yeah,
a
that's a
lot
good
of
thing.
there's a lot of Raylo going on in Beastars, so
Yeah, there
yeah.
is.
Yeah,
Totally.
Legacy is like just perfect, and at one point he wears an Adidas like a full outfit, and I'm like, is that Kyriel Ren from never
Yeah,
mind.
yeah, yeah. Um, Megan Bell just dropped in and she was like, BTS, BTS.
She's been here for a while, she's just been quiet, but yes,
Oh, she has
BTS.
been quiet. Oh, no, she has been here. I just didn't recognize her thing. Yes, BTS. Always BTS. I could never go like any of these without mentioning BTS. But yes, because BTS is like telling the story of integrating your shadow better than Star Wars could
Better than
ever.
Star Wars. Yep. Some other recs in the comments, and I highly respect those, but we are done. Wow, that was a long time. Thanks
That
for
was a
sticking
long
with
time.
us.
I have to pee really bad.
Well, we're gonna end, so
Healthy.
thank you everyone for hanging out with us. We love you all. I hope you enjoyed our Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker novelization live stream. We talked for a very long time, so thanks for hanging with us. Cheers.
Bye, guys.